Blade Runner, 1982 science fiction film directed by Ridley Scott, based on the Philip K. Dick novel titled Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, starring Harrison Ford and Rutger Hauer. Nominated for 2 Oscars: Best Art Direction and Set Decoration, and Best Visual Effects. Multiple versions of the film exist. I have just now had a chance to see the final cut in a proper movie theater, which was a great experience, and I think it is the definitive cut to watch from the information I learned on the internet. I haven't seen all of them, but this is apparently Ridley Scott's preferred one. Fixes several mistakes from the earlier cuts, restores the full Vangelis score and the unicorn dream sequence, and a couple of other changes. The story takes place in the distant dystopian future of 2019. Harrison Ford plays Deckard, who works as a Blade Runner, which is a policeman tasked with identifying and retiring, which means killing, escaped androids. 4 of them, after running away from an off-world colony, have now infiltrated Los Angeles, and Deckard has to locate them. So this was my second time viewing this film. The first time was over a decade ago now, and I think I didn't appreciate it as much then. Now, being a much bigger fan of cinema and having watched and learned so much more about this art form since then, I was able to find new appreciation for this, and now think it's a straight up fantastic film and basically essential viewing. And if, like me, you have a chance to catch a theater showing, do so. It is spectacular on the big screen. The one main thing that I understood even the first time around was that the visual aspect and the atmosphere of the film are one of the key strengths of it, and the reason why Blade Runner is considered one of the most influential movies of all time. So much of science fiction and cyberpunk and dystopian worlds that came after it carry its mark, and I think it's an impact that will never ever really disappear completely from art. Movies, comic books, video games, TV shows, so much stuff borrows or is inspired by Blade Runner. It is ridiculous. And it is remarkable to go back to it and see just how fully realized that vision of a bleak future was. It's not like Blade Runner introduced some interesting concepts that were built upon later by others. No, it is complete and full and layered and alive. So many scenes and shots are dedicated purely to world building and establishing this crazy, almost alien reality. You obviously have the most obvious and iconic shots of the film: the cityscape with flames spewing from tops of skyscrapers, the reflection of that city in the eye, the corporate pyramids, the gigantic adverts, Rachel's first appearance, the blood in the shot glass, the final monologue of Roy Batty. But there's also the magical beauty of the quieter, less pronounced moments. So many scenes play with darkness and shadows, yet make sure that the things that the audience needs to see are visible perfectly. A good example being the test scene with Rachel that happens in the half darkness of Tyrell's office. It is, let me say this again, a visual masterpiece. Similarly, the music is totally iconic. The score was composed and performed by Vangelis, and it is unlike anything else, forever intertwined with the film, where I don't think you can really view or listen to one without thinking of the other. Brilliant stuff. The story, even though it is significantly changed from the source novel, is interesting and thematically rich. It asks the questions of what does it take to be human, where's the line between a human and an android, what is the worth of a consciousness if it can be fake or implanted. In a world like this one, how can you ever know if you are real? And also how much one could sacrifice for freedom, even if it's a short-lived one. I think the movie is great at marrying elements of a classic film noir with a jaded, downbeat detective, a dark and violent world, and a femme fatale with with the futuristic visions of a unique world. I think the antagonist is fascinating because you spend most of the movie observing Roy Batty and thinking he's a dangerous, murderous maniac. Then in the final act, torn apart by the death of Prim and his own impending doom, he goes absolutely feral. He, strips down to his underwear, runs around the building, behaving like a rabid animal. And yet, when he eventually saves Deckard and delivers this fantastic monologue, for those few final seconds, you suddenly see a human being in him, a person who has immeasurable regret that he will not live anymore, he'll not see the world anymore. I think Rutger Hauer is absolutely terrific in that moment, and the rest of the film, but in that moment particularly, because without that tragic note in his performance, it would be very difficult to find pity for Batty. After all, he is a murderer. He did even kill innocents like J.F. Sebastian. Yet when he has his tears in rain moment, you sympathize with him with your entire soul. Harrison Ford does a great job in the lead role. I think things like costumes and hairstyles and makeup and props, building design, vehicles, all of that is perfect in terms of creating a tactile real world, and the side characters inhabiting it are memorable and distinct. The one thing that probably hasn't aged particularly well is how Deckard forces himself on Rachel, and it's essentially played as this romantic moment, especially with that sexy saxophone playing from Vangelis. But you know, in a way, this movie is also a product of its own time, so I don't really have a problem with that aspect. In short, I loved it. I think it stands the test of time as a slow, deliberate movie that proves time and again to remain endlessly influential on so many different forms of art. Iconic film that you have to see at least once in your life.